Hey, what is up, guys? This is Messenger of Israel here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the Thanksgiving deception for this one. So now, this is going to be exposing how demonic Thanksgiving actually is and how it's tied into paganism. And big shout out to Brother Ron for making this video, and I am going to use his video that I have pulled and all this stuff. So I will link his video in the description below so you guys can see the full video. So before I get into that video, I'm going to be sharing some scriptures with you guys for this one. So with all this being said, let the video begin. For it is written in Jeremiah 10, verse 2, Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So what this saying here, you guys, is don't be learning the ways of the heathen by partaking in these pagan holidays that are actually demonic and have occult ties to them. And you know, when you guys do think about these pagan holidays, it is actually religious in a way, to a point where it's like, they be serving their pagan gods, really, that be doing all types of rituals and all evil demonic things, really. And keep this in mind as well, you guys, that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the true God, the creator of the universe, that created everything you see with your own eyes, doesn't want us to be partaking in these pagan holidays, because it's really offensive to him. And when you do think about it, it's like you are actually worshiping Satan by partaking in these pagan holidays. And Halloween is a perfect example of that as well, along with all these other pagan holidays. For it is written in Colossians 2, verse 8, Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So what this saying here is, guys, is don't be deceived into thinking that these pagan holidays are harmless. Like, no, that's not really the case here. Like I mentioned before, like, these pagan holidays have occult ties to it, and it's actually deeply involved into paganism, which leads into Satanism and all that stuff. So you guys got to have wisdom of these things, and don't be ignorant of this truth and just going on ahead just by celebrating these pagan holidays. Like, no, you guys got to make a stand. Choose on this day who you will serve. Like, you can't be serving God and Satan. Like, it don't work that way. You got to make your stance known, you guys. For it is written in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 28, But if any man say unto you, This is offered in sacrifice unto idols, eat not for his sake that showed it, and for conscience sake. For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So it's very important, you guys, that you guys don't be eating the Thanksgiving food and any other pagan holiday foods in general, because worst case scenario, what could happen is your conscience could get all messed up, and then, you might be unalived at that moment, and keep this in mind as well, you guys, that, the people that pray over their food on these pagan holidays, they are praying to their pagan gods. They're not praying to the creator of the universe. So it's very important that you guys stay away from the food and stay away from these pagan holidays, because your conscience is going to get messed up. And worst case scenario, you could probably be unalived at that moment, really. So it's very important for us believers to stay away from this stuff.
For those in America and many other places around the world, we also wonder about the next big day of celebration in this country, which is the holiday of Thanksgiving. Is it pagan? Should believers celebrate and participate? It is a question that needs to be answered and covered. Because while this day is not merely as evil as the celebration of Christmas or Easter, it is not just a simple holiday based on mere thanks. It is another religious holiday that has been made secular, and it is something that should be understood by all believers and those who desire to be a set-apart one. We will discuss the history of Thanksgiving and its religious influence. These people are worshiping and celebrating other gods, and we should not participate in that energy. So, as he pressed this understanding on me, I began to look more into the origins of Thanksgiving, because I realized that my understanding was based off of indoctrination, basically what I learned at school. And because I never heard gods being mentioned in the holiday, I just left it alone as a day of thanks. But it's really not that simple. So we all have to understand it. So what is Thanksgiving? According to the Britannica, Thanksgiving Day is an annual national holiday in the United States and Canada, celebrating the harvest and other blessings of the past year. Americans generally believe that their Thanksgiving is modeled on a 1621 harvest feast shared by the English colonists, Pilgrims, of Plymouth, and the Wampanoag people. This American holiday is rich in legend and symbolism. We were taught in school that this story of Thanksgiving is that pilgrims sat together with Native Americans to share a meal and thank them for helping with a successful first harvest.
Hello, Englishman. I am Squatto. Perhaps we should strike a treaty between our peoples.
Good idea.
And that's what many of us feel we are partaking in. But the whole truth of that story is not quite as nice. Using this article from the New York Times, Everything You Learned About Thanksgiving is Wrong, we can get more understanding of its history. According to the article, the Mayflower did, in fact, bring pilgrims to North America from England, which they colonized and they renamed Plymouth, Massachusetts. In 1621, those pilgrims celebrated a successful harvest with a 3-day gathering that was attended by members of the Wampanoag tribe. And again, this is what we all think we are celebrating when we celebrate Thanksgiving. It wasn't until the 1830s that this event was called the first Thanksgiving by New Englanders, as this is how they wanted to view this day, by this event. But when you add more history to this colonization of this country, it can definitely show you why you will want to be separated from it.
American ideas about the frontier are probably sugar-coated. We want to ignore the ugly side of what was really going on. The vast majority of American Indian nations were forcibly removed from their original homelands.
It is said that the first Thanksgiving stemmed from the massacre of the Pequot people in 1637, a culmination of the Pequot War.
I remember about the massacre through my grandmother. She always talked about it as if it happened yesterday.
When you think about the history of the United States, there are a few key dates that really made a difference, where the way events were before really shifted, and one of those dates was in 1637. The English and their Indian allies attacked a fort at Mystic, Connecticut.
The massacre at Mystic Fort did change relationships between the colonists and the Indians forever.
It set the form for the taking of Indian land, and the process is repeated across the country.
The massacre at Mystic was the first time English people engaged in the wholesale slaughter of Native Americans, but it certainly would not be the last. May 26, 1637 was a day that changed everything in the land that would become America.
As the Puritans of Massachusetts Bay spread further into Connecticut, they came into increasing conflict with the Pequots, a tribe centered on the Thames River in southeastern Connecticut. By the spring of 1637, 13 English colonists and traders had been killed by the Pequot, and Massachusetts Bay Governor John Endicott organized a large military force to punish that local tribe. On April 23rd, 200 Pequot warriors responded defiantly to the colonial mobilization by attacking a Connecticut settlement, killing 6 men and 3 women and taking 2 girls away. On May 26, 1637, 2 hours before dawn, it is recorded the Puritans and their native allies marched on the Pequot village at Mystic, slaughtering all but a handful of its inhabitants. On June 5th, Captain Mason attacked another Pequot village, this one near present-day Stonington, and again the native inhabitants were defeated and massacred. On July 28th, a third attack and massacre occurred near present-day Fairfield, and the Pequot War came to an end. Most of the surviving Pequot were sold into slavery, though a handful escaped to join other southern New England tribes. The massacre of Pequot was the killing of 500 Native American men, women, and children. When they tell the story of Thanksgiving, they tell the story of the natives eating with the pilgrims, but they leave out that the ones that did not agree to the colonizing of their land were killed. They were massacred. This holiday is dressed up around a meal between 2 different tribes of people giving thanks. But what is not mentioned in it is that the people being celebrated were colonizers who had no regard to life that was not their own. They killed and pillaged in order to establish themselves. Their conduct will be severely spoken against today, but yet we use them as the reason to celebrate a holiday. It's said that the Pilgrims extended an invitation to the Native Americans for helping them reap the harvest. But the actual truth of how they all ended up feasting together is not actually known. We know a Disney-type story of it. The English written record does not mention an invitation, and the Wampanoag oral tradition does not seem to reach back to this event. What we know is the celebration they had was an exceptional cross-cultural moment with food, games, and prayer. And we will start to focus on that point of it, the prayer aspect. These pilgrims, the New England colonists, were accustomed to regularly celebrating Thanksgivings, days of prayer, thanking God. The Thanksgiving celebration was days of prayer, thanking God for blessings such as military victory or the end of a drought, etc., things like that. This is a day about prayer, which is why it is named Thanksgiving. People are thanking God for what He is giving them. What we know as Thanksgiving is more of a tradition that does not come from Yah, but more tradition that stems from the Church of England. It is time that many believers today understand that so much of your faith in Yah has been tainted by not only the Roman Catholic Church, but also the Church of England. When we celebrate Thanksgiving, what we are actually practicing is harvest Thanksgiving. The pagans in Rome celebrated their Thanksgiving in early October. The holiday was dedicated to the goddess of the harvest, Ceres, and the holiday was called Cerealia. Cerealia was the major festival celebrated for the grain goddess Ceres in pagan Rome. Thanksgiving is in the guise of the pagan harvest festivals. That's what it is, a pagan harvest festival. And it can be traced right back to ancient Babylon and Ishtar, who is known as the goddess of fertility as well as vegetation. This is all paganism secularized and brought to us in ways that are unassuming and makes us feel it's all about family and not about the worship of other gods, but it's highly incorrect. We have just been accustomed to and attached to the ways of this world and how they celebrate their gods. We need to be very intentional about our celebrations and how we give thanks to Yah. This holiday is not about Yahuwah, even if it is Him you are giving thanks to when you decide to celebrate this day. We are just mixing traditions. We're mixing the Bible with the pagans and saying it's all pure because we're calling on Him. But if you don't believe me that this is not about Yahuwah, I can show you why. If this was all about Yahuwah and worshiping Him, we would do it the way He has shown us. It's not as if He hasn't talked to us about this. But what has happened in religion and these churches, they just don't teach us the way Yah has done things, the way He has shown us, and the way He desires. They just teach us how to adapt our ways of worship with the ways of the world. And that's just a wrong way of being. I mean, let's be clear. Yahuwah has already commanded His own feast days. If we were all about Him and serving Him, we wouldn't have to wonder, well, what can we do? Because He has shown us what we can do. We just don't do them. Mostly because we don't know. And guess what? This is what the churches were supposed to be teaching. But that's another story.
For it is written in Hebrews 10 verse 26, For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. So what this means, you guys, is if you guys already received the knowledge of the truth of these pagan holidays, knowing the history of it and stuff like that, and you guys are still celebrating it, you will be in trouble on Judgment Day. And I'm letting you guys know right now, like, you guys need to wake up and stay away from these pagan holidays. You know, like, especially after coming into the knowledge of the truth and you guys are still celebrating it, you will get in trouble with God. I am telling you guys that right now. You guys need to turn away from it. You need to confess your sins and repent. And for all my Hispanics, Native Americans, and Mexicans out there, why are you guys still celebrating Thanksgiving? Like, why are you celebrating the death of your ancestors? Like, come on now. You guys need to do better than that. And you can get mad at me all you want to, but you guys don't be hypocrites. Like, you're being, like, especially when you come into the knowledge of these things of the truth as well. Like, why are you guys still celebrating? You guys need to turn away from it because your ancestors got killed, got your land taken away from you by these colonizers. Like, come on now. You guys got to do better than that. Well, all this being said, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. What's up, guys? New to the channel, make sure well subscribe. And I get it. If you guys are struggling to turn away from these holidays, you guys will be eventually delivered. You got to trust in God really to deliver you from that. But if you guys are willfully, ignorantly still celebrating these holidays, you're going to be in trouble with God on Judgment Day. Like, I'm just telling you guys that right now. So with all this being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. So bye-bye, guys, and stay safe.